How to determine if your story idea is a good one. This is a guide for fiction authors. It could be that you've got a story idea and you're wondering if it's worth pursuing. The truth is, it probably is worth pursuing, but let's take a look at some things that can help you decide whether you should go ahead and write it or put it somewhere to think and develop later. Maybe you'll come up with a better idea that's sort of in line with that first idea you had. So, fiction writers often grapple with this question, especially when faced with an influx of ideas. While there's no definitive formula for a good story idea, certain criteria can help you evaluate its potential. This guide will walk you through the process of determining if your story idea has what it takes to captivate readers and sustain your passion for writing. Because that's really where it is. Your idea needs to attract readers, but it also has to be interesting enough that you start it and finish it. So number one, does this idea excite you? Your enthusiasm for the idea must be strong enough to get through the entire book. So if you're super excited about it, that's a great indicator of your idea's potential. Because passion drives commitment. Writing a story takes time and effort. If the idea genuinely excites you, it will keep you motivated through the challenges of drafting and revising. Explore why it excites you. Ask yourself what specifically intrigues you about the idea. Is it the characters, the setting, or the central conflict? Understanding your enthusiasm can help you focus on the narrative. Number two, is the idea unique? Now, this is kind of a catch-22. No idea that you have will be unique. There's a good idea that some author somewhere has written your idea. They have all been thought of before. So the question isn't, is it unique, but how are you making it unique? So, you can make it familiar with a twist. Many great stories build on familiar tropes, but add a unique angle or perspective. Consider how your idea stands out in its genre. Avoid cliches. If your idea feels overly familiar, brainstorm ways to subvert expectations or deepen the premise. This is especially important if you're doing romance or thrillers. There's been a familiar formula for doing those types of books, romance, thrillers, mysteries. A lot of genres have these formulas that you have to follow. How are you going to change up the formula to make it interesting? Remember, all your readers, especially if they're big into the genre, they've already read everything else. How is your book different? And then ask, what if? This question can help you explore possibilities and add layers to your idea. What if this happens? It's the same question I always ask in my stories. What happens next? What happens next? In this instance, you're saying, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did the other thing? What would happen if? So think about that. 3, can you summarize your story idea clearly? And this gets into the thing I'm always talking about, where it's, what's your sentence? What's your paragraph? And a clear and concise summary indicates a well-defined concept. Test your elevator pitch. This is the sentence. Try explaining your story idea in 1 or 2 sentences. This elevator pitch should convey the main premise, conflict, and stakes. An example of this would be a young woman discovers she's the last heir to a magical kingdom and must defeat a tyrant to claim her throne. If you do magical realism or, sci-fi, that would be your 1-sentence thing. And then you would expand on this by writing a paragraph. And then you refine if necessary. If you're struggling to summarize your idea, you may not have the right type of focus. Revisit the core elements to clarify your story's essence. Number 4, does it have strong conflict and stakes? Conflict is the engine of any compelling story, and the stakes that are at risk keep the readers invested. Now, when most writers think about this, they think of scenarios like the end of the world, or a big, huge war, or a giant catastrophe, or environmental catastrophe. These are all great, but how are you going to make it interesting? Remember, there's an awful lot of war books and movies out there. There's an awful lot of end-of-the-world scenarios out there. There's an awful lot of environmental catastrophes, asteroids hitting the planet. It's all been done before. How is yours different? And if you can't think about how yours is different, pick something else. It doesn't have to be super high stakes. It can be super high stakes for your character. So that would be, very small. You could even, say that, your character not being able to buy his favorite donut is the end of the world for that character. That might be interesting. So remember to identify the central conflict. What drives the story? Is it a character's internal struggle, a clash between opposing forces, or a quest for something vital? And remember, as you go on, raise the stakes. Ensure the consequences of success or failure are meaningful. What does the protagonist stand to lose or gain if they fail or succeed? Number 5, are the characters compelling? Characters are the heart of a great story. When your readers can identify with the characters, it makes your story all that much better. So, develop a protagonist with depth. Is your main character relatable, flawed, and capable of growth? Readers should care about their journey. A memorable, short supporting cast. Are the secondary characters diverse and engaging? They should contribute to the story's development and challenge the protagonist in meaningful ways. The protagonist is usually considered your main character if you didn't know that. The antagonist is the opposing force. Authentic motivations. Every character should have clear goals and reasons for their actions, making them feel real and relatable. So, think about your character's motivations. Why are they doing what they're doing? What keeps them going? Does the setting of your story enhance the story? Number 6. The setting that you choose can add richness and depth to your story. Do you have a unique or immersive world? Whether it's a fantastical kingdom, a bustling city, or a small rural town, the setting should feel vivid and integral to the narrative. The setting should also serve the plot. Does the setting influence the events of the story? For instance, a dystopian world might amplify a character's struggle for freedom. Or, financial success. These tend to be, dystopian world tends to be, a very select few haves and a whole lot of have-nots that are living in just complete disarray and filth. Does your setting reflect the theme of your story? Consider how the setting supports or contrasts with your story's themes and emotions. Number 7, is there room for development? A good story idea should provide enough material for a complete narrative. In other words, you should be able to develop your idea into a complete story that is rich and full of depth. Can your idea sustain a full story arc? Does your idea have the potential for a beginning, middle, and end? Can the characters grow and the plot escalate over time? Avoid thin concepts. Some ideas may work better as short stories or vignettes. If your idea feels too small, consider expanding it with subplots or deeper character development, or just turn it into a short story. Number 8. Would your idea resonate with your audience or who you see as the audience? So who's your target audience? Does the idea align with the expectations and preferences of your intended readers? For example, young adult readers may expect fast pacing and relatable teen protagonists. Does it have a universal theme? Stories that explore universal emotions or dilemmas, love, loss, identity, or ambition, tend to resonate with a wider audience than other types of stories. 9. Can you visualize the key moments? If you can picture pivotal scenes, it's a sign your story idea has narrative potential. Memorable scenes. Can you envision dramatic or emotional moments that will leave an impact on your readers? What are the turning points? Identify moments where the stakes shift, the conflict intensifies, or the characters make critical choices. You can outline this. If you can outline this, much of it, or write them out, you've got a good story idea. Number 10. Are you ready to commit to your story idea? Ultimately, a good story idea is one you're willing to invest time and energy into. What's the feasibility? Consider your current skill level, resources, and schedule. Can you realistically tackle this idea right now? Or do you need to wait until you get more writing experience? I've had story ideas where I've had to wait for years until I was good enough to be able to write it. Passion over perfectionism. You don't need to have everything figured out before you start. What matters most is your willingness to develop the idea as you write. In other words, if your passion is strong, you don't need to worry about is it complete or perfect. Final thoughts. Determining if your story idea is good isn't about meeting a universal standard. It's about finding an idea that excites you, challenges you, and has the potential to engage readers. Once you've evaluated your idea, don't hesitate to dive in and start writing. Many great stories evolve and improve as they're developed. Trust your instincts, embrace the creative process, and remember, the best way to find out if your idea works is to start writing it. If it stalls out pretty quick, it's probably not a good idea. But if you get 50, 75 pages in, you've probably got something. Anyway, good luck and happy writing. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.